Hi everybody, my name is Jim with Full Moon Adventure Club, and today we're going to be addressing some of the pros and cons and concerns of the new Inergy Apex. I already did my review on this last week and I gave it a really good glowing review. I ran it through some tests in the RV and some other stuffs and compared it to the Kodiak, and I absolutely love it. I guess there was a negative review online, and you know, that's fine, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I was going to leave it alone, but some of my viewers were I guess worried or concerned and were asking me a lot of questions about that review, so I thought I'd throw this video together to kind of do some more tests, address those concerns, and give you a few more cons and stuff like that that I found over the last 3 days of testing, so that everybody's on the same page and at least you have accurate information. If you already bought one of these or you're thinking about buying one of these, at least you'll have all the information that I can provide you. So I am an affiliate with Inergy. I did not pay for the Kodiak or the Apex. They gave them to me to do the review, and thank you very much for that, and enabled me to share all this information with you. It also enables me to give you guys 20% off, so I really appreciate that. But if you didn't already know that, now you know. So we're gonna dive into a few of the things. I'm gonna put them side by side and just kind of dive into some of the new things that I found over the last 3 days. And then we're gonna put it through some more testing that's really long and enduring. I'm gonna make sure that I push it hard enough to turn off the inverter, shut it down, stuff like that, which I've never been able to do before in my normal operation. So let's jump into all that stuff right now and take a look at these two things side by side. Okay, so in my review video, everybody was like, well, there are no cons in there. I really didn't have any gripes at the time. After 3 more days of extensive testing, there are a few things that, you know, I would change personally. I'm a little bummed out about, but not deal breakers by any sense. Now, first off is the power button, and mine is very attached. I don't want to break it, but I'm pulling really hard on this guy. Mine seems firmly attached. I do wish it was recessed into the case so that you just had to pinch in there and turn it one way or the other, because this is susceptible to side impacts when you're sliding it into vehicles. So you just have to be a little careful about that. The Kodiak had a recessed button, which is great, but it didn't have the DC AC functionality that the Apex has. So when you switch this over to DC, you have your lighter sockets activated and your USBs activated without your inverter, which is great. However, one thing that they got rid of was leaving the lighter sockets live all the time. On the Kodiak, even with the button not pressed, nothing's turned on. These are active, which I thought was cool. I liked that. So they kind of fixed the USBs, but got rid of something that I did like, because even though you're on DC, you know, the display's turned on. Circuits are activated to monitor all of your levels and whatnot. And I'd just like these to be active if you just want to plug in your phone or something without turning anything on. So leaving as much stuff off as possible just to save that little tiny bit of energy that this display probably uses, which is probably minuscule, not a deal breaker, not a big deal. The 5-pound weight limit. I mean, you can definitely feel that. I like the 20 pounds over the 25, but considering this is the only thing even close to this weight class, means that it's kind of neither here nor there. I mean, nothing can touch it as far as the lightweight goes, but I did like the 20 pounds over the 25. And then some other things we got on the sides here is that on the original Kodiak, you were able to charge through the smaller little port right here, and the light would come on to indicate you were charging. And on the Apex, you can no longer use this port for charging. It's only for the DC adapter and the AC wall adapter. And so the light only comes on when it's being charged through solar. And I can't use my Predator 50 panels on this port anymore, which is kind of a bummer, but not a deal breaker. All solar has to come through the EC8 cables. You can also see the different cable connection types right here. This one plugged in, twisted on. And this is an EC8 cable. And we'll get into the EC8 cables here in just a little bit as far as the new connector types. But I do miss being able to plug solar into that port, but you can just plug everything into here. So again, not a huge deal. And the other thing, if I had to pick anything, I like the circuit breakers on the back of the Apex, which makes things a lot easier. But look at the cool bear design on the Kodiak right here into the fan port. I just think that's really cool. And they went with a standard over here, which is fine, but I did like it. So those are some gripes that I have about the new Apex. And now we're gonna talk about some other stuff. But those are the little things that I've noticed that I would kind of want back. Would be the charging port, the lighter sockets, and a recessed button so it's a little more protected. So that about covers it for that. Let's jump into the rest of the stuff. Okay, so those are some pretty small things. Let's talk about the EC8 plugs. A lot of people are concerned they're not UV resistant and not waterproof connections for permanent installations. Now, for most people, this is going to be using it like weekend warrior stuff, going camping. If there's a power outage, even if it's for a week or something, you're going to be putting it out, using it a lot. I think these EC8 plugs would be just fine for that. But if you do want to do a permanent installation with these, I talked to Inergy, they said they're going to come up with some waterproof and UV cases that just clip on and take care of the problem. But also you can go to Home Depot and get those Christmas light waterproof connectors and put that over there, and they're actually waterproof and UV resistant for like $5, so that's not a really big deal. But if it were me, this isn't even an issue that was on my radar, to be honest with you, because if I was going to put this on top of the RV connected to solar panels or on a tiny home permanent style, I would go snip and use butt connectors and military, marine grade shrink wrap tubing. You're good. That takes 5 minutes and it costs $5 or $10. That is not at all a big deal to me, and that's probably what I'd do anyway if I was doing an absolute permanent installation, because I wouldn't want those plugs to jiggle loose, and of course just to make sure that everything's nice and connected and weatherproof and all that good stuff. So that's what I would do. So for me, not a concern at all. I think they plug in really nice, and it's just not a problem that's on my radar. I think it's a really easy fix if you're doing a permanent installation, and for weekend stuff, I think you'd be just fine. So we'll move on from that. That's my 2 cents. Also the 12.6 volts. Adding batteries to this guy. The charged lithium state on this battery inside the Apex is 12.6 volts, and a lead acid battery needs to be charged to 13.6 volts in order to be fully charged. And so that is going to diminish the capacity of your battery. It's going to be not fully charged and probably discharged past 50%. And as we all know, lead acid batteries are very picky about that. If you want them to last 4 years and get all of your cycles out of them, you have to stop at 50% and go up to 13.6. This isn't going to do that. I think these battery ports are more designed for what they're coming out with, which is their lithium battery expansion. And that's going to match the formula of the internal lithium battery, the voltage, and you'll be able to use it all and discharge it all, and it'll match the Apex's battery system very well. I do like that you're able to connect lead acid batteries, AGMs, gel batteries into this guy. I think that's pretty cool because, for example, say in Puerto Rico where they lost power for a really long time, any battery that you could get your hand on, you could actually add to this guy. And even though that battery's not going to make it 4 years, it's probably going to make it 2 or 1 or whatever it is, depending on how you're using it. But you can add up to 3,000 extra watts onto the system if you need it, which I think is very cool. It's not ideal for lead acid. I think AGMs and gels, deep cycle batteries, would handle that a lot better. But lead acids, it's still cool that you can connect it. But that's the reality of adding lead acid batteries to this system, would be that they're not going to be fully charged, and so therefore they're not going to last as long. So that's the deal there, but I'm really excited to try their lithiums because I think that's going to match everything just perfectly. So that's my 2 cents on that. Now, the big elephant in the room that everybody's concerned about was the 500 watt BMS, which is the battery management system inside the Apex. It has a 500 watt continuous output, and they state that in the manual. I didn't really realize that. I think I just kind of saw it and glazed over it. But everybody, what you hear is it's a 1500 watt continuous inverter on this guy. And so let's put it to the test real quick and see if I can get it to shut off. I've never shut one of these off on my own, using them constantly for a year, with the Kodiak. There's never been a situation that I've ever turned one off. But I'm gonna leave this resistant load, which is basically just when you touch 2 wires together, it's gonna short out and create a lot of heat and coils. So that's really hard on systems, and it drains a lot of power really fast. I have a space heater that's 1500 watts, and I'm gonna plug that into the Kodiak and the Apex. Let's see if we can get them to shut off, and we probably will, because that's a ton of power to run consistently, but let's go out to that test right now. Okay, so here's the basic setup. We have our heater, nothing else plugged into the Kodiak here, and we're just going to turn it on high and see how long it goes and start the timer. So here we go. So they did shut off. The Apex actually did better than the Kodiak did at about 3 minutes for the Kodiak, and I think it was 4.5 for the Apex, around there. You just saw the test. But so it shut off, and I was surprised by that. I've never been able to shut one off before, just using it normally. And I've even tested that heater in one of my old reviews where I was like, it will run one of these heaters. But then I go on to say, this is not what you want to run this heater with, because of course it would drain the battery in 20 minutes. I think is what the math works out. It's got 1,100 watts of capacity, and you're running 1,500 watts pulling out of it. It's probably only going to last about 20 or 30 minutes. But this one shuts the battery off, so you don't discharge it that fast. And so I think if you're going to say it's a 1,500 watt continuous inverter, you should just sacrifice the battery cycles and let you pull 1,500 watts out of it. But the reason I think it shuts off is really just to make sure that it's going to last that 2,000 cycles. You can use this thing every day for about 5.5 years until you're at 80% capacity, and then keep using it for years after that, which is very cool. I think it's to protect the battery, but maybe they should be more upfront on their packaging and their advertising on that. Is that a deal breaker for me? Absolutely not. I've been using this thing a lot over the years. Well, I guess the last year and a half, whatever it is, but it's continued to impress me every single day. So I mean, I'm going to show you a test right now where I actually hook it up to the RV behind me, and I'm going to throw 1,000 watts at it, charging my battery bank system. And this is the difference between a resistant load, which is connecting wires and heating a coil, very hard on stuff, and actually using circuitry and stuff like that to charge. So I'm going to pull the energy out a little cleaner, and we're going to see how it does running about 1,000 watts into my battery bank, which is going to put in about 48 volts into my battery bank, and we'll see how it does there at 1,000 watts. So let's jump out to that test right now. So that was a really good test. I was very impressed with that. That's kind of what I'm used to. The normal tests that I usually run give me those typical results. That's why I'm still going to permanently install these into my RV, because I absolutely love them. But I started that test at 75%, mind you, because I'm out here in the middle of nowhere dry camping, and I couldn't charge it to a test every day and then recharge it because it takes a little while and we have no sun. It's actually raining on all my stuff right now. So, but it did end up putting about 24% into my battery bank. So I was at 60%, and then I ended up at like 83, 84%. And that's the kind of thing that I use it for. I think that's awesome. And also the video that I did in my review of the Apex, where I showed all of the things inside my RV running, you know, laptops, TVs, the stereo up front, the subwoofers, the tablets, the cell phone booster, the internet, the Alexa, the refrigerator is running off AC power, and I was even charging my batteries a little bit on its lowest setting, putting in like 20 or 30 amps or something like that. and 10 LED lights, all that stuff that I showed in the video. Nothing was doctored about that. That's just what it was running. All that was coming in at around 550 watts, which that thing will run all day. And I think that's more its intended use in a power outage, is to run all of those kinds of things. And the 1500 watt inverter does work, but for shorter bursts. I think it's more for power tools. I have used this to do chop saws and different things like that, and it worked great. I've even ripped plywood with a circular saw and done a lot of different construction things with it, run my wet dry vac and a whole bunch of other things, and it did all of that just fine. Also, when I was at my friend's house, it actually ran his washing machine through 3 cycles. I did 3 loads of laundry at his house, and I touch on that in the video, but only briefly. But it actually ran 3 loads of laundry, which I think is very, very helpful in a power down situation or off-grid situation, anything like that. And that's a pretty darn big appliance. And as far as running refrigerators and all that stuff, I've also done those tests where I ran a 20-year-old beer fridge, very inefficient, for 13 hours in my garage, and then the slightly more efficient but not Energy Star certified refrigerator in my kitchen, with everybody using it all day, lasted 16 hours, just plugged into the Kodiak. The Apex is going to be no different with those tests because they all draw around 500 to 600 watts, and that's a very large appliance. So freezers and all that good stuff is going to work just fine for you. But to move on, let's do a test on the microwave and see how well that does. So let's jump into that test right now. Okay, for the microwave test, this is our basic setup. I have a little phone going right here that's going to give you a much clearer look at the display, and we have a timer. Here is our 1982 Magic Chef microwave right here. And the power setting's on high. That's where it was when the knob broke off. So, and inside I do have a bowl of water. For those of you that always complain when I start these dry sometimes for short periods. And then we have inside the cabinet here, I took the power cord from the microwave that's usually plugged into that receptacle, plugged it into this extension cord, and that runs down to our Apex. And I can demonstrate that right now just because we have no power in the microwave. And that's because we're on DC. So what I'm gonna do is turn this guy over to inverter. We're at 80%. I'm gonna crank up the microwave to its maximum time, and we'll just see how long this guy runs. So let's do it. Here we go. And start. Okay, she's off and running. Oh, okay, there we go. I'm gonna turn off that inverter, and we're gonna check in the microwave here. Yeah, the water is nice and steamy. Hopefully you can see that in the background there, but we're pretty much boiling at this point. I'll have to clean out my microwave a little bit. But there you go. Oh, I need to stop this. Okay. So about 8 minutes and 30 seconds is what we got out of that test. Most microwaves are going to cycle on and off a little bit. The newer ones, I can't tell you what the newer microwaves are going to perform like, because all I have is this 1982 Magic Chef. But that's the most accurate test I could give as far as microwaves. So there you go, 8 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay, so there you go. So considering that's a 1982 very archaic Magic Chef 1500 watt microwave, I think it did just fine. The reason I've never even noticed this limitation is because I've never really microwaved anything quite that long. The most I ever do is like a Hungry Man. They're usually done in like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So I mean, I've never noticed this limitation. If you're using a modern microwave that's under 1000 watts, you know, like 1000 watts, just a normal small microwave that you'd probably be using in camping or off grid or whatever, it's going to work just fine. If you do have a really big microwave that's a 1500 watt, don't forget you can just adjust the power setting down to like 75%, which is going to cycle on and off. The magnetron inside the microwave is going to cycle. And just that few seconds where you're not sucking 1500 watts of power out of that thing is going to enable the fan to cool off the battery, and you're ready to go, and it'll run just fine for you. But I also, now that we have all that stuff out of the way, I want to kind of give you guys an idea of what 1500 watts really requires in order to run continuously for 30 minutes, an hour and a half at a time, using my RV as an example. So I have a pretty nice setup in there, and I'm going to go over the cost breakdown and the weight of this system to let you know what's going on. So I actually have two 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate Green Life batteries inside this guy, and they come in at $1,200 a piece and 20 pounds. Okay, so that's 40 pounds at $2,400 for 200 amp hours of lithium batteries. And then I have the SW3012 Xantrax 3000 watt pure sine wave inverter, really big, top of the line guy, very efficient, and that costs around $1,500, and it comes in at a whopping 80 pounds. Okay, you can get away with a 2000 watt inverter for sure to run 1500 watts continuously, and that's going to save you a little bit of weight, but that's what I have inside mine. Then I also have a solar kit, and this is an Overlander Go Power 160 watt kit, and it comes in at about $700 and it weighs 27 pounds. And this is not including all the wiring for the install, mind you. But so if you add all of these things together, you're going to end up with $4,600 before taxes. So I'd say $5,000 is a pretty darn safe bet. So a $5,000 system that comes in at a whopping 147 pounds. So $5,000 at about 150 pounds, pretty big system. And anytime I'm going to run a blow dryer, a hair dryer at 1500 watts, or my microwave, or if I was going to run that heater, I'm running my generator every single time. And I'm going to show you a little video that kind of demonstrates why, even with my pretty nice system, I always run the generator when I'm trying to run a load like that for like 10 minutes or anything like that. So let me show you that video real quick right now. Okay, we're at 86.1. I'm going to turn on the heater. Hold on. You see how fast that is sucking down my RV system batteries? Two 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate batteries, a really clean, top of the line inverter, a 3000 watt. So it's definitely handling that output fine. And solar coming in. I've got a little bit of sun hitting, probably getting like 2 amps or something coming in. And it is just sucking my RV dry. And that's why I would never recommend that you run a 1500 watt resistance load appliance off of an inverter that size. Look at it go. Just pulling it all right out. That's a ton of power, you guys. Big 15,000 BTU air conditioners are actually drain my battery slower because they have cycles. This is just going to be on all the time, and that resistance load is just like connecting two electrical wires together, and that makes heat. It's really hard on anything, and so I would never really recommend that you use it for that kind of thing long term. Even coffee pots, anything that makes heat with coils is just connecting the two circuits together, making it nice and hot, and they use a ton of power. So just in the time that I've been talking to you, you can just watch this thing draining away. I would probably only be able to run this on my RV for about an hour and maybe an hour and a half. So there you go. So that really demonstrates how much power really gets sucked out of even a really nice system like this one. 1500 watts is a lot of power. For instance, have you ever seen 1500 watts of solar? I mean, imagine a 100 watt panel and then multiply that by 15, that's 1500 watts. This is what a 1500 watt solar array looks like. It's a lot of power. And if you run to run something like this electric heater off of batteries alone, I would say for say 6 or 8 hours, you would probably need around 8 to 10 lithium-ion 100 amp hour batteries, and at $1,000 a piece, you're looking at $8,000 to $10,000. That's a lot of money to run something like that for a long period of time, and the solar option is expensive also. But that's just to kind of put it in perspective about how much 1,500 watts continuous really is and what it costs to get there. So I really like that this guy can run washing machines and refrigerators and even a 5,000 BTU air conditioner I ran for hours on the Kodiak. This will handle that because it only uses around 500 or 600 watts. So that's an impressive amount of energy to be able to use on this guy continuously every single day for 5.5 years until the batteries are only charging at 80%, and you could use it for years after that at under 80%. So I think that's really impressive that it can do all of these things, the power tools, the refrigerators, the large appliances, and even an air conditioner. And now I'm going to show you why the weight is such an important feature on this guy, because it makes it truly portable. So I'm going to take this down to the river, which is a pretty decent little hike away, and I was like, I'm going to show how light it is and actually take to the river. And my girlfriend Twig, who is 5 foot tall and 100 pounds, very, very petite. And she said, well, if it's really that weight, I should try and carry it down to the river and record me doing it. So that's exactly what I did. We're going to go down to the river and just put it through a couple of tests and see if she can actually get it all the way down there on our hike. So let's check out that footage right now. Okay, let's go. So there you go, babe. How hard was it?
It was doable. It's heavy, but I can do it.
Yeah? Okay, good deal. Here we are at the river. I'm gonna help her take it down this big stairway here, this little drop, and then we'll set it up and have some fun. So I'd just like to show you all the things that are charging here. We have an electric blanket, Galaxy S9. We have my drone batteries, the remote controls being charged, batteries for the walkie-talkies. We have rechargeable batteries for our flashlights there, the drone batteries up top, GoPro 7. We also have my quick charger that's powering the, charging up the batteries there, Harman Kardon Bluetooth speaker. And over there we have my laptop going on, and that's also being charged right now. So all that stuff is using about 62 watts. And I'm already down to 12% because I ran a 1,000 watt test until this thing cut out on me, and I haven't even recharged it yet. So it kind of bounced back to 12%, and it's still gonna run all this stuff after that test. So you can see everything is charging. Juice is flowing, and I mean, we're using 83 watts. So I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And this is all stuff that we just brought down to the river. And I can play with my drone, we can take shots, we can use our cameras, we can listen to music, we can do all those things. And we're down here at the river. Which is just awesome. So there you go, guys. I just wanted to demonstrate why it's so cool that you can actually take this thing with you to different places portably, and it does everything that it does. I think that's very, very cool. I still recommend it, knowing that it has limitations on the 1,500 watt continuous. Absolutely, I love this thing. I'm never gonna do a review of something that I don't use and love. That's just the way it goes. I've turned down plenty of stuff that people sent me to review that it just didn't meet my expectations, and I don't like doing bad reviews, so I just send them back. So I only do good reviews of stuff that I like, just so you know that's always gonna be the way it is. If I ever have a problem with either one of these guys, I will give you the update, but they're still working perfectly, so if you bought one, enjoy it. I think you're really gonna love this thing. I think it's gonna take pretty much anything you throw at it. Just understand what 1,500 watts of continuous power means and what that really is. The fact that it does it in bursts for power tools and everything else is impressive. I think that about wraps it up for everything that I really wanted to cover about this guy. Nothing that I've seen here today is a deal breaker at all. If you wanna wait for their next version, you can. If you already got this one, enjoy it. I'd say go for it and have a ton of fun with it like I am. I'm installing mine in the RV, and both of them are coming with me everywhere I go because I absolutely love using them. That's about all I have to say about that. If you get some solar panels, 500 watts, it's gonna run that all day, and that's actually a lot of power. If you need to run something that's 1,500 watt, it'll start pretty much anything that you have and run it long enough to do the job and then stop. Just don't try and run that for long periods of time using a resistance heater. That's not gonna work, it's just not. So there you go. I hope I just kind of gave you guys some more information and filled in some of the gaps so that you understand what you're getting and you can make a more informed decision on this. If it's for you, if it's not, that's fine, totally up to you. But I wanted to give you all the information that I can give you and put it through some real world testing to put some of your minds at ease, or give you confirmation if that's something that you're not looking for. If you need 1500 watts continuous for a long period, you need to build a really expensive solar system. It's just kind of the way it works. So there you have it. I think that covers it for now. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. My name is Jim with Full Moon Adventure Club, and until the next video, thank you so much for watching and happy camping.